All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. It's wonderful to see you all. My name is Matt Laidlaw, and whether you're joining us online this morning or in person, we're really, really grateful for the opportunity to spend this morning with each of you and are excited about our experience today. So, per usual, a couple of quick reminders that I want to offer. One is that for those early adopters of Open Circle, you might remember that 3 years ago, this weekend was the beginning of our meeting on Sunday mornings, at least pretty semi-regularly. I think at the time it was what we called our Phase 2 gatherings, then we had our Phase 3 gatherings, then we had coronavirus, and now time and phases mean nothing to any of us anymore. So I don't know what phase we're in, we're just here, and that feels really, really nice. But as I've reflected on our journey together as a community, so many things just continue to feel really, really beautiful and really, really unlikely to me as I consider our experience together. Getting started completely as a grassroots effort, really with a question of, does something want to be born? Does something want to happen? Is there a group of people who want to lend their presence and their lives to one another towards possibility and imagination to see what a new sort of spiritual community might look like in West Michigan? And those stories don't often end with or continue with, and here we are 3 years later after 2 years of a pandemic, completely in a grassroots sort of way, meeting, imagining, giving ourselves to one another in some compelling ways. It's been a really, really beautiful thing. And I continue to believe that in West Michigan especially, the idea that there could be a spiritual community that is inviting and hospitable to everyone, and that really meaning everyone, all people, regardless of all the ways we identify and categorize ourselves or whatever labels are imposed upon us, that we could offer a warm embrace to this community and say, no, really, we want to learn how to be a community that can embrace everyone, and we think there's some important conversations we could have together and some important work we could do together, I still believe is desperately needed. And I think you might think that too, which is why we're all here this morning. So with that, thank you for continuing to wear masks. I know that there's been a lot of conversations about that locally and related to COVID stuff as that continues to unfold in our communities, but it's our conviction that we want to be able to do this safely, and we can't compromise our mission by not being as safe as possible. So we're going to continue to meet in person, but we're asking everybody 2 years old and older to wear a mask when we're indoors together. Thank you for doing that. If you forgot a mask, you can grab one at the welcome table out there. And I'm been delighted by the ways that we've all respected and honored each other in this space since we resumed in-person gatherings in September. I know there's differing opinions about what safety even looks like, even in this little community, and we've done it. So thank you for being kind-hearted and gracious with one another about that. With that, this morning, in a moment, I'm going to guide us through our opening practice. Our new friend, Cole Hansen, will be offering some music. Lex Cummings will be sharing our story for all ages, and then I'll be offering a brief teaching, continuing our Practicing With series together. Sound all right? Okay. Would you tell me if it wasn't? I don't think so. Okay, but before we go any further, if you're willing and you're able, let's stand together. Say hello to one another. Offer COVID-appropriate side hug, elbow bump, high five, whatever. Introduce yourself, say hello. we will have the chance to talk some more with one another in just a few minutes. It is a wonderful problem to have in a community to say, hey, you can talk to each other, and then people do it and don't want to stop. That's a really beautiful thing. So, most weeks at Open Circle, we begin with what we call our opening practice, which is just an opportunity for us to find our footing for the morning, to get grounded, to calm our minds and our hearts, and to open ourselves up to one another and to the possibility of whatever this experience could mean this morning for each of us. So in a second, I'm going to read this very brief poem by the medieval mystic and poet Rumi, who we've read from in the past. I'm going to read the poem slowly, and I'm going to read it twice. And then after that, we're going to hold 2 minutes of silence together. And I'd invite you during those 2 minutes to engage yourself in whatever way is going to help you find footing and find a way of being grounded this morning. For me, that's uncrossing my arms and my legs, sitting up straight in my chair, closing my eyes, taking some deep inhales and exhales. If there's a prayer or a mindfulness practice that's helpful for you, please feel free to engage in that during this time. And we'll mark the 2 minutes of silence by the ringing of a bell. So I want to invite you to find a position where you're sitting that communicates openness to yourself and to one another and to God. And take some deep inhales and exhales. Become mindful of your breathing. And hear these words from me. Today, amazed and bewildered, I have shut the door on thought, and I have turned to music. There are 100 ways to kneel and pray at the altar of the beloved. Today, amazed and bewildered, I have shut the door on thought and turned to music. There are 100 ways to kneel and pray at the altar of the beloved. Thanks, everybody. The experience of music has always been an important part of our practice as a community at Open Circle. Sometimes we experience music by singing. Sometimes we experience music by listening. Regardless, our invitation is always the same, to participate with open hearts and with open minds. And our guest musician this morning is Cole Hansen. Cole is an up-and-coming singer-songwriter and vocal powerhouse from Grand Rapids, Michigan, whose songs are like a beacon in the night, guiding lost ships back to shore. I'm really, really grateful that Cole's joining us this morning for the first time. So please join me in welcoming Cole Hansen.
Thank you so much. I was just thinking I could do this on microphone. I would probably be fine. Thank you so much for having me here today at Open Circle. Thank you for being here. Nice to see your faces today. This first song I actually wrote for my husband before he was my husband. I wrote it as a surprise for him for our wedding, actually. And I wanted a way to bring our families together because we have some kind of religious people in our family and some not so religious people in our family. And my mom wanted me to do a reading from 1 Corinthians, which I've done before, and I was perfectly fine doing, but I said, you know what, maybe I'll use that for inspiration to write a song instead. So that's what I did. This is called Why We Say I Do. I wanna be the one who talks you out of smoking. I'll remind you we can always step outside to catch our breath. When you want a drink to get your mind off other things, just remember we're both better when we're sober. I'll be patient, I'll be kind, I'll help you ease your worried mind. I will not envy, I will not boast, 'cause love is never proud. I will always tell the truth. I put all my trust in you. Love will protect us. This is why we say I do. I wanna be the one who gets you outside, especially on the days when you feel blue and uninspired. Never dishonor you, I wanna please you. If you're happy, I'm happy too. I'll be patient, I'll be kind, I'll help you ease your worried mind. I will not envy, I will not boast, 'cause love is never proud. I will always tell the truth. I put all my trust in you. Love will protect us. This is why we say I do. I will try not to get mad too fast. If I do, I promise it won't last. I'll never keep a record of the wrong things you do. If someday my mind gives out, don't you ever have a doubt about our love. This is why we say I do. I'll be patient, I'll be kind, I'll help you ease your worried mind. I will not envy, I will not boast, 'cause love is never proud. I will always tell the truth. I put all my trust in you. Love will protect us. This is why we say I do. Love will protect us. This is why we say I do. Love will protect us. This is why we say I do. Love always perseveres. Love never fails. Love never dies. Love always perseveres, love never fails, love never dies. May our love persevere, may our love never fail, may our love never die. Thank you so much. So earlier this summer, I was asked to be a part of this Make Music Day, this National Make Music Day. And all I knew about it was that I was going to get to talk to a stranger, and I had to write a song about that stranger in an 8-hour time span, and then talk to them again via Zoom later in the day and play them that song that I had written for them based on whatever we talked about. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I ended up talking with this 8-year-old girl named Alice, and she told me about her rock collection. And I also collect rocks, so I got really excited that this was going to be what I was going to write a song about. And she said that she had started a rock trading post outside of her front door, and she lives in Louisiana, middle of the city, so not a whole lot of rocks. Her mom said she basically had a box of gravel out on their doorstep. And she said within a week, though, they had all of these cool gemstones that people would drop off. She had a sign that said, "Take a rock, leave a rock. Take a cool rock, leave a cool rock." And she just said they had seen such a positive response from it, she had to share this story. So I wrote a song called Alice's Rock Song. I hope you like rocks, too. I love rocks, how about you? I'll make a sidewalk sign with chalk, see what people do. Take a cool rock, leave a cool rock, simple as can be. I hope someone trades a rock with me. So Alice left a box of gravel found under her feet. You get more grass than rocks on her Louisiana street. Aspiring petrologist, she hoped someone would take a chance and share their treasures with a girl in need. Take a rock, leave a rock, rock Alice's world. Every time you give more in return. Trade a pebble for a gemstone from the Emerald Isle. Rock this way, make Alice smile. So many pretty rocks, how do you choose which one to keep? Don't think too hard, don't dig too deep. Beauty only matters to the one holding the stone. Let igneous passion fill your bones. Take a rock, leave a rock, rock Alice's world. Every time you give more in return. Trade a pebble for a gemstone from the Emerald Isle. Rock this way, make Alice smile. Walter left obsidian, found when he was 8. Fred and amethyst, his late wife, wore on their first date. Violet gave granite that fell off her grandpa's grave. And Law, the worry stone that made him brave. Take a rock, leave a rock, rock Alice's world. Every time you give more in return. Trade a pebble for a gemstone from the Emerald Isle. Rock this way, make Alice smile. Metamorphic, sedimentary, in their own ways, they're all extraordinary. Thank you so much. This next song is called I'm Okay. I might not ever be famous, but I can write you a song. I might not be a genius, I still have some great thoughts. I may not ever be skinny, but I've got something to grab. And I am not a fancy girl, but I'm certainly not drab, certainly not drab. Whoa, whoa, I'm certainly not drab. Whoa, whoa. I might not be a scholar, but I did well in school. And I am not a criminal, but it's fun to break the rules. I wish my front teeth were smaller, but I can light up a room. Wish I was one of the cool kids, but maybe they do too, maybe they do too. Whoa, whoa. Maybe they do too. Whoa, whoa. I get by with what I have. Comparison kills your dreams and steals your joy. I'm okay with who I am. I'd rather be hated for what I am than be adored for what I'm not. I might not ever be wealthy, but my life is rich. And I am not a repairman, but there are many things I can fix. I wish my house was bigger, but then there'd be more to clean. I don't drive an expensive car, but it gets me from A to B, from A to B. Whoa, whoa, gets me from A to B. Whoa, whoa. I get by with what I have. Comparison kills your dreams and steals your joy. I'm okay with who I am. I'd rather be hated for what I am than be adored for what I'm not. I get by with what I have. Comparison kills your dreams and steals your joy. I'm okay with who I am. I'd rather be hated for what I am than be adored for what I'm not. I might not ever be famous, but I can write you a song. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure being here. Thank you for being here once again, for sharing your morning with me this morning. I'm looking forward to seeing what this place is all about. The song's called Get Out of Your Head. play the right chord. Breathe in deep. The day is new. Leave your worries behind. Break the shackles that bind you. Be the change that you want to see. Shine your light in dark places. Give only love, share only good energy. It's a big, beautiful world out there, full of people needing hugs and laughter to share. Thoughts are creations, not real life. Get out of your head already. Get out of your head. It's time you treat yourself gently. Would you say that to a friend? Get out of your head. You'll get stuck in that cage you made and wish you were dead. Get out of your head. I love you. Get out of your head. Be here now. Get out of your head. You are perfect, just the way you are. Say a prayer for someone you know. Wish them health and happiness wherever they may roam. Let thoughts come, just don't let them stay. You only have this moment. Stop standing in your own way. It's a big, beautiful world out there, full of people needing hugs and laughter to share. Thoughts are creations, not real life. Get out of your head already. Get out of your head. It's time you treat yourself gently. Would you say that to a friend? Get out of your head. You'll get stuck in that cage you made. You wish you were dead. Get out of your head. I love you. Get out of your head. Be here now. Get out of your head. You are perfect, just the way you are. Get out of your head. I love you. Get out of your head. Be here now. Get out of your head. You are perfect, just the way you are. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. That was beautiful. Cole, can we give her one more round of applause? It was like far too early and I haven't had enough coffee, and I was like, can you get out of my head with that last song? I was like, so good. Thank you. So at Open Circle, we read stories for all ages, for the young and the young at heart. So if any young or young at heart folks are out there and you want to come on down, oh, we have supplies. I love it. Oh, yeah, you're right. I was like, come on down. The price is right, and then get on stage. All right, anybody else? We are skeleton crew this morning, eh? All right. So, this morning's book is called God's Dream, and it's written by Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Douglas Carlton Abrams, illustrated by Laidlaw. Is everybody ready? Okay. Dear child of God, what do you dream about in your loveliest of dreams? Do you dream about flying high or rainbows reaching across the sky? That's an intense dream. I love it. Do you dream about being free to do what your heart desires, or about being treated like a full person, no matter how young you might be? Do you know what God dreams about? If you close your eyes and look into your heart, I'm sure, dear child, that you will find out. God dreams about people sharing. God dreams about people caring. God dreams that we reach out and hold one another's hands and play one another's games and laugh with one another's hearts. But God does not force us to be friends or to love one another. Dear child of God, it does happen that we get angry and hurt one another. Soon we start to feel sad and so very alone. Oh no, look at this little buddy. Sometimes we cry, and God cries with us. But when we say we're sorry and forgive one another, we wipe away our tears and God's tears too. Each of us carries a piece of God's heart within us. Yeah, I think God does that too. And when we love one another, the pieces of God's heart are made whole. God dreams that every one of us will see that we are all brothers and sisters and siblings. Yes, even you and me. Even if we have different mommies and daddies and parents or live in different faraway lands. Even if we speak different languages or have different ways of talking to God. Even if we have different eyes or different skin. Even if you're taller than I am and smaller. Even if your nose is little and mine is large. Dear child of God, do you know how to make God's dream come true? It's really quite easy. As easy as sharing, loving, caring. As easy as holding, playing, laughing. As easy as knowing we are family, because we are all God's children. Will you help God's dream come true? Let me tell you a secret. God smiles like a rainbow when you do. And there you have it. That's today's story. So, if y'all want to follow Jenica and Marin, who are at the back, go hang out and have a good time.
Check, check. Thank you, Lex. Don't mind me while I fix my weekly mask wardrobe malfunction right there. For those of us who are not moving to childcare, for this next part of our gathering, we're going to practice what we call standing circles. So if you're willing and you're able, I would invite you to stand up right where you are. I think by now many of us have participated in this practice at some point, but I'll give a brief review. Participation in this practice is completely optional, and you can indicate that you're going to sit this one out by either remaining seated when we begin, or you can feel free to go for a walk, or go into the exhibit hall, whatever feels most comfortable for you. We'll take 8 minutes to participate in this practice together. So in a moment, I'm going to ask us to get in groups of 3 or 4 people. And I'm going to offer 3 really simple prompts on the screen. And with groups of 3 or 4 people, you'll each have an opportunity to respond to the prompt in order from person to person. So everybody responds to prompt 1, everybody responds to prompt 2, everybody responds to prompt 3. And you're simply invited to participate in this practice with 5 simple intentions. to speak from the heart, to listen from the heart, without saying too much, say just enough, respect one another, and trust the process. So before I give you the prompts, if you'd like to participate in this practice, I'd invite you right now to move around the room and find groups of 3 or 4 people. I'd invite you to maybe get with people outside of your household, maybe people that you've never met before, and please be inclusive of individuals of all ages in this room who would like to participate. So find some friends if you'd like to participate, and then I will share our prompts. All right. I even see some trading going on here. That's some exchanging of people. This is good. All right, so your 3 simple prompts for this time. For the first one is please share your name and a word or phrase that describes how you're feeling right now. The second one is I feel blank about the weather the past several days. Remember, there are all ages in this room. And then the third prompt is briefly describe a uniquely meaningful moment you experienced during the holidays. So we'll take about 8 minutes on that, and you can let the room know that your group has finished this practice by finding a seat when you've made it through all 3 prompts. All right, ready, set, go. Check. We're going to take about 1 more minute, so make sure you have a chance to hear from everybody. All right, friends. These conversations can continue after the gathering and in the coming weeks as well. Thank you for being willing to lend yourself to this practice together. So we took a break from our teaching series for Advent and Christmas, but this morning I want to continue the series that really we're going to be encountering from September all the way through May, that we're just calling Practicing With. And our hope is that during this series, our discussions will be taking place at the intersection of ancient wisdom, the teachings of Jesus, the science of relationships, and that hopefully together we can at least take some steps towards recapturing the lost art of seeing, hearing, and being with God, with one another, ourselves, and in this big and beautiful universe that we inhabit. In this series, we've been trying to sort of stake the claim that relationships are reality, that the separateness we experience is not actually real, and that we want to learn new ways and new practices of participating in reality, of in relationship, that all things are held together in love, and that even though the entire stream is moving in one direction in these stories of separateness that we're all living in, we want to try and stop together and begin walking, swimming, striving in the other direction to participate in what is real, which is relationship. So it's a new year. It's been over a month since we've engaged in this conversation. So this morning is going to serve as a little bit of a reset for us as we continue the next several months in this conversation together. So you've probably heard me talk about this before, but from 2017 to 2019, I had the opportunity to participate in a program called The Living School, which was hosted by the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was an organization that was founded by Father Richard Rohr. I quote him often. I'm sure you've heard me talk about him before. And it really was a remarkable honor and a really beautiful experience to be a part of this learning cohort with people from around the world. It involved several trips, intensive trips to Albuquerque, lots of online learning and discussions and circle practices like we just experienced. And I'll forever be grateful for that experience. I signed up and applied and went through the whole extensive process to be a part of it because I had read some of Richard Rohr's books, and at a time in my life when I felt like anything related to Christianity at all that I had been exposed to was just sort of like my heart didn't seem open to it. I was having a lot of questions about things, but whenever I heard Father Richard speak and read some of his stuff, I was like, that's it. Like, if there's something still here for me, if there's something that's true and beautiful about this tradition that I've been a part of, he's pointing at something that I'm finding helpful. So I might as well try and figure out how to go learn from him, from the source of this life that I'm experiencing. And I did enjoy learning from Father Richard, but really shortly after I got to Albuquerque the first time and had the opportunity to encounter some of the other faculty, I met somebody named James Finley. And we can all aspire to Uncle Finley's eyebrows right there. I don't know if you can see them or not. It's fantastic, and I'm close. I'm on my way. after a few days of my first experience there, I started going to all of James Finley's electives. I didn't really know anything about him. I just knew that sitting in a chair in a room with 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 people who were mostly strangers, that when he talked, no matter what he was talking about, no matter if I was tracking with him or not, I felt something that I hadn't ever really experienced before. I felt safe. I felt loved. I felt known. I felt vulnerable. I felt held. And even after a few of these sessions, all of a sudden I would realize it's like, do I have allergies in Albuquerque? Is there a pollen here that I'm not, what is happening? Why am I just crying, sitting in this space? So I started going to all of James Finley's sessions just for that reason. I don't know what I'm learning. I just know that something is happening to me here that I don't even know how to describe. If you're not familiar with James Finley, he's a psychotherapist, trained in Buddhist meditation. He's a spiritual director. He lived in a monastery for a number of years. He grew up in a severely violent and abusive home, and at a very young age, he basically ran away and gave himself to life in a monastery. And the monastery that he escaped to was the monastery where Thomas Merton was a monk, and Thomas Merton became his mentor, spiritual director, for several years. And much of James Finley's presence and work and teaching was deeply influenced by the experience he had with Thomas Merton and the healing that he experienced during his encounters with Thomas Merton. We've referenced Thomas Merton a handful of times during our time together at Open Circle, but Thomas Merton, this person who deeply influenced James Finley in his work, probably, I'll say one of the most influential spiritual teachers and writers of the 20th century. He was a Trappist monk. He was an interspiritual teacher. And he focused a lot on conversation between people of different faith traditions and multiple different religions. And really, James Finley and Father Richard would say that Thomas Merton is the one who's responsible for reintroducing the mystical and contemplative tradition to the Western world, a tradition that had been lost for several generations. And Thomas Merton died really tragically in 1968. He was in Asia at a conference and really tragically was electrocuted in his room and passed away at a young age, much too early. But something that was foundational to my experience of James Finley and the experience that I was having at the Living School and much of what James was teaching was connected to his experience with Merton and what became known as Merton's mystical vision. So in 1968, March 18th, 1958, Thomas Merton was running errands in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, when he had an experience that he would say would change everything for him. And the spot is actually marked with a historical marker in Louisville, Kentucky. A couple sources that I found have said this is the only marker in the United States that marks a spiritual, mystical experience with a historical marker, which is just strange, interesting, bizarre. And Merton describes what he experienced. He wasn't at the monastery. He was in downtown Louisville. He was just running errands. He describes what he experienced in his book, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. And Merton says this: in Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world, the world of renunciation and supposed holiness. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. I have the immense joy of being a man, a human, a member of a race in which God himself became incarnate. As if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me, now I realize what we all are, And if only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. It was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their hearts, where neither sin, nor desire, nor self-knowledge can reach, the core of their reality, the person that each one is in God's eyes. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time. This mystical experience, this moment of greater awareness, transformed Merton's life and his work, and it changed everything for him. And the irony of this moment is that he recognizes it cannot be explained. If only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There's no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. He recognizes that you can't explain what I experience. I can't explain to people. Yet he spent the rest of his life writing and teaching and trying to explain this to people, right? He had an experience that woke him up to something that was more real than anything he had ever experienced before, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to find the words to try and help people understand what was really true, that each person that exists on this planet, each one of us, is walking around shining like the sun. There's no way to explain that to people except for that he spent the rest of his life trying to do that. I think if you think about your own life and any moment of small moments of awareness or connection or sacred or connection to God or divinity, however you want to describe that, a moment where maybe you felt like you were awake, even if only for a moment, something that felt so real to you that everything else seemed like you had been in some sort of daze or dream, that for a moment you were awake. If you tried to explain that to any of us right now, I bet you wouldn't be able to. I tried in a few moments to explain what I experienced sitting in a room at a hotel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where this 70-something-year-old man who I'd never met before was teaching, and something happened to me in that moment, even if only for a minute, and I tried to use some words to describe it, and you all were very kind, saying, "Oh, that sounds like a very interesting story, Matt. Thank you for telling us," and I'm trying not to just start sobbing in this moment. There's no way of telling people about these sorts of experiences. It's hard, it's so hard to find words that match the depth of sacred experience that each one of us have had in our lives, whether it be moments of extreme beauty, moments of extreme suffering, moments that we were predicting, moments that came as unexpected. It's so hard to find words to match the depth of these sorts of experiences. And here I am, trying to talk about it. Trying to explain it in some way. So bear with me, because I think Merton's vision, even as unexplainable as it is, has something really important to offer us, even if only conceptually, as we try to think about what it looks like to practice with in our own lives and with one another. I think Merton's vision reveals something that is at the heart of really all spiritual experience. I think it's foundational to the teachings of Jesus, and in my opinion is really the best hope for our society and our planet. It's in part of why I wanted to help be a part of Open Circle over 3 years ago when we were imagining what a different way of practicing our spirituality could look like in West Michigan. And I would summarize what I think Merton is pointing to with this phrase, that the location of divinity is humanity. The location of divinity is humanity. What did Merton say after his experience of seeing people, realizing that wait, I love all of these people. I'm not separate from any of these people. He said, "Now I realize what we all are. And if only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There's no way of telling people that they're all walking around shining like the sun. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time. Merton, I think, his vision points to or clarifies something that you could call spiritual geography. Meaning, where do we find God? Where do we find Jesus? Where do we find divinity? Where do we find the sacred? Where is mystery? Where is meaning? Where is it located? Where do we actually go to find it? And we know from whatever tradition, if you are part of a religious tradition, but previously in your life, or if you're still connected to one now, whatever that is, you know that there are stories of temples, you know there's stories of church buildings, you know there are stories of sacred space, you know there were stories of high places on high mountains throughout the world where people knew that's where you go to find it. God's there, mystery's there, divinity's there, and if you want more of it, that's where you have to go. And I think Merton's vision clarifies something about spiritual geography. Where is it that we go to find these things? And I think what Merton's vision points to, and how Merton makes sense of his vision in the years following, is that the thing that you're looking for, the thing that you're longing for, what you need, what you want, it's right in front of you. It's either the face that you see in the mirror, or it's the face of the person sitting right next to you. You are walking around shining like the sun. It's here. It's not somewhere else. It's you. It's not someone else. It's everyone. It's not anyone else. You don't have to climb that mountain. You don't have to go into that temple. You don't need to find someone who has a little bit more of it than you do to go do it for you. You don't need connection mediated through somebody else. We can have conversations another time, and we have a little bit before, about the value of all of those things, of priests and guides and temples and churches and mountains and pilgrimages, all of that. I'm not saying it's not of value. What I am saying is that there's not any more of it there than there is right here. There's not any more of it located in any other person than there is in you, or in me, or in us. The location of divinity is humanity. This is in part what Christian theologians refer to as the incarnation, the enfleshment of the divine, the sacredness of physicality, that everything that exists is drenched in mystery, is infused with grace, is inherently sacred because it exists. It is held together in love and in beauty. This is what part of what we've been talking about in these conversations the past few months, is that relationship is reality, that everything is held together. The Gospel of John references that in Christ, the divine became flesh and made its dwelling among us, that divinity became humanity. The Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells this amazing apocalyptic parable that's filled with beauty and horror and terror and images that might be super fun to spend some time unpacking together at some point. He talks about people being separated like sheep and goats. But at the heart of it, like, what does Jesus say, and which is often missed? I know I often miss it if I read that story. He says that when we feed the hungry, when we give water to the thirsty, when we invite in a stranger, when we clothe the naked, when we visit the prisoner, in all of these encounters, we're encountering Jesus. In our interactions with those people, that is where God, that is where mystery, that is where beauty and meaning are actually located. Where is divinity to be found? Where is the sacred to be found? In human interaction. In the nitty-gritty of life. In that story, it's almost like Jesus is saying, like, imagine like most of the things that all of us spend our time trying to avoid. Feeding the hungry, giving water to the thirsty, clothing the naked, that is mostly an inconvenience to the really busy lives that we're all leading, right? It's almost as if Jesus is saying, like, if you're going to find it, like, you're going to find it there. And if you can't find it there, you're not going to be able to find it anywhere. Divinity located in humanity. Also in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells this story where he really simply says, like, hey, if there's two people like in a place, hey, I'm there too. Wherever two or more are gathered, I am there with them. That especially is like a passage that has taken on a bunch of other meanings in a lot of different traditions. But at face value, hey, where there's humans, there's divinity. Where there's humans, there's sacredness. Where there are humans, where there is a human, there is God. The location of divinity is humanity. Wrapping our minds and our hearts around this can change everything. And I think once you begin to see it, it's impossible to unsee it. I think it's the foundation of everything Jesus teaches, and I think it's at the heart of all great spiritual traditions. And Merton says it's impossible to explain this to people. But I'd like to offer just two things for us to think about in light of this. If it's possible to wake up from a dream of separateness and be in a crowd of strangers and realize that you love all of these people, that they're all shining like the sun, that you are shining like the sun. If that's real, if that's possible, if that's true, two things for us to consider this morning. One is freedom. I was with a handful of people from our community earlier this week, and we were sort of casually ideating, creating, thinking about what has been our experience together as a community. How would each of us describe that? And the word freedom kept coming up from multiple people, which is interesting because it's not a word we've really prescribed, even though I think it's a word that we've discovered together. And as I've reflected on that and in thinking about how do we explain to people that they're all walking around shining like the sun, I think the word freedom is a helpful marker, can hold some value and meaning for us. I think we have to keep ruthlessly trying to find freedom from perspectives and relationships and communities that prevent us from finding the sacred in all places and in all people. Religion, especially, like sort of staunch, organized religious tradition, is obsessed with spiritual geography. It's only here, it's only in this location, it's only at this time, it's only in this way, it's only with these people, it's only these beliefs. And if you want power, or you want presence, or you want to make sure that you do it, you better make sure that you do it right. And if you don't have it, if you're not connected to it, then you must be doing it the wrong way, or you're a part of the wrong location or the wrong tradition. So you better go try another location or tradition that claims that it's only there, that it's only with those people, that it's only in that way. What is fascinating to me about Merton's experience is that it didn't happen in the monastery. He'd been there for over a decade. And the experience of a Trappist monk is very secluded and very rigid. This would have been one of the few times, for very few reasons, that a Trappist monk would leave the monastery. And he's in downtown Louisville, outside of the walls of the prescribed way, the prescribed rules, the prescribed people. And then he has this vision where he realizes that everybody is shining like the sun. Jesus wasn't a priest who worked in a temple. Everything Jesus did happened outside of the prescribed spiritual geography, outside of the prescribed religious traditions and rules and guidelines. Pentecost, the Christian spiritual awakening, didn't happen in a temple or a synagogue. It didn't happen primarily among the most religious people. It happened outside of the prescribed spiritual geography of the time. I think this vision helps us realize that there are no actual temples, there are no actual gatekeepers, There's no one more or less worthy. It's everyone. It's everywhere. It's you, and it's me. You are shining like the sun, on fire with sacredness and mystery. Your existence, your personality, every breath that you are taking, the fact that you are conscious and aware and here is a miracle. You are shining like the sun. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I wish you could see yourself as you really are. I wish I could see myself as I really am. We have to find freedom from the voices that prevent us from experiencing life in this way. How many of us might have been in downtown Louisville among a crowd of people and started to feel something, but because it didn't fit in the rules or the traditions or the prescribed ways of understanding God and divinity and mystery and sacredness, because it didn't fit in that, we shut it down. We closed ourselves off to it. How many of us could wake up to this reality if we could find freedom from the ideologies, the worldviews, the traditions that are preventing us from waking up to what is most real? And I don't know what that looks like for each of us. I'm not saying cut off relationships. What I am saying is how do we open ourselves up to the possibility that maybe some of the things we've been handed are preventing us from experiencing the life and vitality that is possible, that comes with waking up to reality. The irony of that is, the first thing that Merton says is, I realized I love all of these people. It's like waking up from a dream of separateness. And so much of what we've been handed has come in the name of love, but actually prevents us from waking up to that reality of being able to realize actually, not conceptually, to realize actually that I love all of these people, that I'm connected to them. Second, as we ruthlessly find freedom from the stories of separateness that we're living in, the second invitation is presence. And I think presence is one of the keys to practicing witness that we will keep coming back to. Merton said that he loved these people. It was like waking up from a dream of separateness. There's no way of explaining to these people they were walking around like the sun. If only they could see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time. If we all went and stood out on Fulton Street and looked at each other and looked around, we'd probably be like, cool. Right? That's fun. I mean, these people are great. We can't manufacture this kind of awareness that Merton experienced, right? He'd spent over a decade in a monastery, essentially, trying to manufacture it. And it wasn't like, oh, I finally moved the needle enough in prayer this morning at the monastery to where I woke up when I was in downtown Louisville. I don't really think that's how it works. We can't conjure this sort of thing in the moment together. We can't just produce the kind of awareness that creates the possibility of waking up in this way. I think these sorts of moments really only come as a gift, sometimes only for one moment of our entire lives. But I do think we can try and invite it. We can try to cooperate with the possibility of it, trusting that in some way this thing that we have only experienced in part is actually what's real, knowing we can't do anything to create it or manufacture it or get there. We know we don't need to climb the mountain to get to that temple. We know it's here in front of us, in me, in you, right here. Sometimes we just can't see it. We can't feel it. We can invite it. We can try to cooperate with the possibility of it. One of the things that James Finley I've heard him say often, is that we must learn to be present to presence. We must learn to be present to presence. We must learn to be present to presence even when most often it feels like absence. We must learn to discover that there's a kind of presence that is uniquely present in what feels like absence. I think what Finley means is that we're not going to have these sorts of experiences like Merton had most of the time, probably. But do we want to? Do we want to be awake? Do we want to look for it? Are we open to it? Would we be willing to cooperate with it? Because what's true is that your child, your partner, your spouse, your boss, your neighbor, your parents, your friends, the hungry, the thirsty, the Democrats, the Republicans, the Americans, everyone else who lives on the planet are all shining like the sun all the time. I think if we want to be able to experience that reality, we have to be willing to open ourselves up to that possibility. When was the last time any of us were present with ourselves or with another person long enough to even consider the possibility that any of us are actually shining like the sun? As I mentioned before, the nature of the world we live in makes it really easy to autopilot with these people are transactions, these people are obstacles, these people are bumps in the road, these people are people that I'm doing my best with, whatever it might be, to just survive and get through another really challenging day. But are we open to the possibility that these people who are obstacles, these people who are transactions, these people who are another thing on our list, these people who didn't do the thing the way I would have wanted them to, these people who made my day harder, the people who I'm stuck in traffic with, most often realizing that I am also the traffic, they are the traffic, I am not the traffic, these people in these moments, are we present with ourselves long enough, with them long enough, open to the possibility that they're shining like the sun? For me, I've got a bit of work to do there in terms of being present to the possibility of presence. I don't have a more specific tip or trick or practice for any of us this morning. I've spent 30 minutes of our lives trying to explain something to you that I said in the beginning I know cannot be explained, and I'm sorry for that. And also I'm not sorry. I really believe, from the bottom of my heart, that stepping toward this is our hope, is really our only hope as a society and as a planet. And I know that there are people in this room who believe this so strongly that we're willing to bet a whole lot on it. People in this room who've been willing to spend countless hours to help form a community that would eventually spend a lot of money to create a space where we're going to hear some beautiful music and we're going to share some compelling stories and we're going to talk about important ideas and eat some good food and do some good work together. But I want to let you in on a little secret from me. All of that has mostly been done to trick each of us, myself included, into spending just a few minutes each week standing in a circle or sitting in a circle, speaking to one another, listening to one another, engaging one another in the hope that maybe, even if only for a moment, some of us might see one another shining like the sun. So that maybe, someday, we could see ourselves and one another this way a little bit more often. So that maybe someday we might all realize that we all love everyone. I think this is our only hope. I don't know how to explain to you that you are shining like the sun. I wish you could see yourself as you really are. I wish we could all see each other that way all the time. If you're willing and you're able, please stand with me. A couple of quick reminders before we go. We can talk more about this in the coming weeks, but because of the remarkable generosity of this community, we raised about $11,000 beyond our normal giving in December to get us really close to hitting our budget for 2021, which is amazing. So thank you for your continued generosity to this community, for supporting the mission of this community to make gatherings like this possible, for us to be able to have these sorts of conversations. And in this very turbulent world where getting together with people is very challenging, creating the possibility for us to continue to do this and to explore what's possible in the future. So thank you. If you have any questions about our finances, talk to me afterwards. Email us at info@opencirclecommunity.org. We're glad to open up the books, show you where every dollar is going, and clear up any questions you might have. If you'd like to give to Open Circle, you can do that at opencirclecommunity.org/give or in the cash box in the exhibit hall. Continuing to collect donation items for Dégagé Ministries. All of the shelter and homeless resources in West Michigan right now are maxed out. They need items, and COVID is ravaging their staff and their patrons. So this is an easy way for us to give something. I would also say, if this is something you're interested in, go to Mel Trotter, go to AYA's website, go to Dégagé's website, go to Guiding Light's website. There's needs posted on social media and on their websites. They need help right now. Next Sunday, we'll be back here. Our friend Tim Sayers will be sharing some music. I'll be teaching again, taking the next step in the series. You should have received an email this week with a number of ways to get connected over the next month. Lex is leading an ongoing book group that will start next Thursday. We're continuing our parenting conversation about parenting in a post-traditional Christian space. The following week, all of that is on our website and on social media as well. And if you have visited this community recently, or this is your first time here, you'd like to meet some new people or figure out how to get a bit more connected to the heart of this place, please find me afterwards. I would love to talk with you more about that. And then per usual, after you pick up your kids, after we have some coffee and treats together, in about 20 minutes or so, we'll start cleaning up if you're around, if you're willing to help. That always makes a huge difference. So if you're willing, maybe open your hands and receive these words as a blessing and benediction and sending. My Open Circle family, this week, may we see ourselves as we really are. May we see others as they really are. May we be open to being present to presence. And may each of us have peace. Peace be with you, my friends. Have a wonderful week.